Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into a Friday day live stream. Well, that was it. That was fun while it lasted, guys. That was a good time. Genuinely, I had fun. Hopefully you guys did too. The NASDAQ has officially entered into bear market territory. As pointed out from Don D on a call that I had with him this morning, the NASDAQ is currently down 20% from its peak, which, if you did not know, is a bear market. So there you have it. It was good. It was enjoyable, but now it's over. No, I'm just playing. While the NASDAQ is down 20% over a span of what, just like a month and a half, Bitcoin is holding up right now. Bitcoin is not down at all, despite the NASDAQ being down quite aggressively. Now, I see over on YouTube that I'm not. Okay, there we go. We are, in fact, live. So good morning, everyone. Welcome into the live stream. What's going on, Morales? Welcome in, Beagle. How's it going, MK? Beagle, the market is, in fact, not booming. And guess who's back? Don D. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to a Friday live stream. Hopefully you guys are amped up and ready to go. I find it quite interesting on a day that the NASDAQ is down 3.78%, especially after being down 4.5% from yesterday. Like, look at that gap down yesterday. Gap down filled downwards. Oh, even more than that. That was just from the gap. From where it closed on Wednesday to where it closed on Thursday, it fell 5.5%. And then from there, it fell an additional 3.8% right now, with that wick going well into bear market territory for the NASDAQ. And yet you flip the tide and go look at Bitcoin, which has been historically tracking the tech market to a T. Bitcoin right now is actually higher than where it closed on that same Wednesday. So while the NASDAQ is down nearly 8%, Bitcoin is actually up 0.1%. So that decoupling is happening live right now. Speaking of live, we're live. Did you guys know that we go live Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talk about decentralized science and the broader crypto markets? Right now, we're going to take a minute to go over kind of things I'm seeing in the market and some fear and some theories I have brewing, which I think you guys will find pretty interesting. We're going to have a fun time today. I've gone through all of DeSci and pinpointed several posts that I think are noteworthy that we should pay attention to give you guys some confidence that the space is still building. But obviously I know that you guys are very interested in the broader market right now because everyone is. Anyone who's invested is paying attention to the same stuff right now. TLT breaking out of that range and starting to put in some higher highs there. Again, you guys know from yesterday's live stream and from the conversations we've been having for the last, let's see, month. We opened that position a month ago and it is up 2.29% right now, which is cool because TLT again does not move like this. TLT, the play on interest rates being cut, doesn't usually move like this. So the premiums on those options, let's go ahead. I want to showcase to you guys the premiums here. I'm going to open up my trusty Robinhood portfolio and take a look to see, maybe later. I'm not going to do trade on the last 4 college basketball tournament teams with event contracts. Robinhood is opening up gambling for sports. It's crazy. Those options on TLT that I booked, again, options don't, like TLT doesn't move like this. So those options are up 21% today on a 2.29% move. So for the option play, it is 10x the move that TLT is doing right now, which is insane. It's crazy, but that's because people are flooding to get those options because the total trade war strategy is becoming more and more evident with some of the comments that Trump is putting out there. Something that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Beagle says markets are booming, just down. RIP. Is drinking beer allowed during the live? You guys can do anything you want. I will not be drinking beer. I don't even have my kombucha here today because my tummy was upset and I didn't want to upset it anymore on the live stream, so we will just take a sip of the water. Water, not sponsored, although it should be. SodaStream, reach out. It's not even sparkly, I just put that in the container. The trade war. This is my theory at least, okay? We'll see if it plays out. I do have a post that I'll pull up while I'm rambling about my theory here as to what it might be. but no, just some cat videos I've been bookmarking. That's the current state of the market, is that I've just been bookmarking cat videos. Let's see, Amit did this post. Everyone is so hyperfixated on the trade war being Trump versus other countries, right? He's instilling these tariffs to get countries to negotiate better trade deals and to get them to come build in the United States. And while that is part of this multi-dimensional war, trade war that is going on, that is not the key adversary right now in Trump and his administration's POV. This is my theory. This is not 100% true, but my theory is that these tariffs are to scare the Fed into lowering interest rates, okay? Not so much to get people from foreign countries to come build in the United States. That is somewhat of a side effect, but the main villain here is the Fed. Keeping those interest rates high needs to go away. They need to start cutting rates. And so Trump is playing multi-dimensional chess right here in order to get the markets to crash, the economy to start coming to a grinding halt with these tariffs so that the Fed will lower interest rates and then he can remove those tariffs. And then the market comes booming back even more aggressively. But in the interim, we need that pain in order to show that Trump means business. And he can't show his hand right now by saying, hey, we're not actually going to keep these tariffs on for a long time. I think we will revert back to no tariffs after rates have been cut, or at least trim those tariffs incrementally and kind of allow for the market to start slowly booming again. It won't just be like all of a sudden the tariffs are gone. It'll be a slow rollback over the span of probably like 3 years, right? Something like that, where maybe come midterms, so not this year, but next year, when we're getting ready to vote on midterms, Trump will remove all the tariffs, right? And then the market can be roaring back to life with lower interest rates. But I'm gonna play this video for you guys. And this is a video that on Truth Social, Trump reposted, okay? So I think it has a lot of weighing. I mean, Trump literally reposted it. So let's just play the video.
Trump is crashing the stock market by 20% this month, but he's doing it on purpose. And this is why Warren Buffett just said Trump is making the best economic moves he's seen in over 50 years. Now here's the secret game he's playing, and it could make you rich. So why is he doing this? To push cash into treasuries, which forces the Fed to slash interest rates in May, and those lower rates give the Fed the ability to refinance trillions of debt very inexpensively. It also weakens the dollar and drops mortgage rates. Now it's a wild chess move, but it's working. Now you're probably wondering, what about his tariffs? Well, I'll tell you, it's a genius play. It actually forces companies to build here to dodge them. It also forces farmers to sell more of their products here in the US to bring grocery prices way down. We've already seen this with eggs. Now remember, 94% of all stocks are owned only by 8% of Americans. So Trump, he's taking from the rich short term and handing it to the middle class through lower prices.
Okay, you hear that? Trump, again, I want to reiterate to you guys, Trump reposted this on Truth Social, okay? I was taking a little bit of notes of key points to talk about there. What were the key points of that video? Well, number one, they want money to flow into the treasury markets. That is, i.e. bonds, i.e. TLT. He's trying to force people to buy TLT. By buying TLT, it lowers interest rates, the functional interest rates of the economy. And then by hurting the economy in the short term with something that is easily removable, then what we see is that the Fed will lower rates because they don't know if Trump is going to keep this forever or if this is just a negotiation tactic. They have to either call his bluff or just go along with it. And I think that they're going to go along with it, hence the play on TLT. And that's what Trump believes as well, is that they're going to go along with it, right? This also, again, weakens the rates. This will weaken the dollar. Let's go ahead and pull up the dollar right now. And this plays into why stocks are falling, because they import stuff. And Bitcoin specifically is not necessarily falling because they don't really import much. Bitcoin doesn't have to deal with the tariffs and the imports. Bitcoin is going to actually, I think in this moment, decouple from the NASDAQ a little bit, as it is right now, because they are more reliant on monetary policies. The price of Bitcoin is way more reliant on monetary policy. So the dollar here almost tapped 101 DXY. It's bouncing a little bit back here today, but it caused the dollar to weaken pretty aggressively, which is going to have a big impact on the crypto markets. Now, why do you think the dollar is falling aggressively here? Because in order for a country to keep a technical advantage within the global trade ecosystem, a weaker currency makes it more favorable for people to actually trade with that country. Okay, that's why we see China instrumentally devaluing their currency over the years, right? There will be periods in time in which China will strategically devalue their currency by printing a shit ton of it so that countries will be incentivized to trade with China. Because if you then think about it like this, right? If you are holding on to dollars and you want to go do business in China, you need to convert into their currency, the yen, and then because it is weaker than the dollar, you get a better exchange rate, right? And then when you go back into the dollar, you get a better exchange rate. So by devaluing a country's currency, it makes it more favorable to actually trade with that country. So the dollar going down is the market trying to soften the blow of tariffs, okay? That makes sense? But a byproduct of the dollar going down is that dollar-denominated assets start to go up, right? And where Bitcoin is denoted in dollars for the most part, it is holding strong despite the NASDAQ and stocks going down. And even though stocks are denoted in dollars, they have a much higher impact on the short term compared to because of these tariffs, right? Does that make sense to you guys? Hopefully, let me get some ones in the chat from everyone, if that makes sense. What's good, Stare? Welcome into today's live stream. 10 viewers, this has to be the bottom. I know, we had like 5 viewers the other day, my man, and I think that was the bottom. But it's interesting. And again, I really wish that when I had pointed this out to you guys right here, on Wednesday the 26th, when we got rejected by the 200-day moving average, I explicitly told you guys that we were going to come in and put a new low in here, right? And so I really wish that I had bought some near-term put options because that really would have printed like crazy, but I kind of chickened out. I'm gonna be honest, I don't like betting against the markets. I don't. It's not something that I'm a fan of doing. I like being long. It gives me comfortability because in the long term, being net long is always going to be beneficial. So I always have that hesitancy when betting against the markets, but it really should have bet against the market there because it was clear as day. They were saying we don't care if the market goes down. My thesis was they wanted the market to go down, and we had the structural setup for the market to go down. I mean, it's not super. We went through the live stream and pointed out how every time we get rejected by the 200-day moving average, we put in a lower low for the most part. Whenever we break below it, if we come back up for that retest, it is a picture perfect experience to short the market. Didn't happen in COVID, but that was different because they were printing money like madmen. But you go back and look, and just about every time in modern history, when we get rejected by the 200, we go and put in some lower lows. So it was the picture perfect storm to short. I, again, just didn't because I am a little bitch. I chickened out, guys. I chickened out. That makes sense? Beautiful. Thank you guys for participating in the live stream chat. We got ones from 4 of you. What's good, Spec? Good morning, good morning. Okay. Yeah. It is interesting, guys. What a time. What a time. I hope you guys are paying close attention because this is the time that you get to increase your knowledge, right? Your knowledge base is going up aggressively during periods of time like this because it's one thing to read about them and it's one thing to study impacts that like of tariffs and of dollar manipulation and of rates. It's one thing to study that kind of stuff. It's another to see it in action and actually get to live through it, right? So hopefully you guys are sitting down, removing yourself from your portfolio for a minute and taking notes on what's going on here because we will live through these types of periods again and again. We will see stuff like this happen again and again. And so next time it's happening, you can better position yourself to take advantage of it, right? How do you think I was able to kind of read that TLT was going to start ripping? Now, hopefully, I don't want to count my eggs before they hatch or whatever. The play has not fully played out yet, but I think we're getting some signs of confirmation that it is going to be playing out. So like there's reasons I was able to position myself a little bit here so that while the core of my portfolio, my long-term portfolio is bleeding, I was able to find something to go long on that is actually benefiting me here a little bit. Again, wish I had shorted, but I always get uncomfortable when I short the markets. Yeah. I mean, look at this. Solana's literally green on the day. The stock market is a sea of blood, probably one of the biggest sell-offs in the history of the stock market yesterday and today. And Solana's up. That is intriguing. That it double bottomed here. That is interesting. I would rather not have knowledge. I'd rather just have the money and no knowledge. No, you need the knowledge. You need it. Okay, let's go ahead and go through some of the news. Again, I went through, pulled a lot of interesting stuff to talk about here today. So first up, ValleyDAO got a shout out from Binance Research. So Binance Research obviously invests in DeSci, and they are focused in on researching decentralized science, and they put together a little bit of a vertical overview. This is not all encompassing, and they are misrepresenting some of the projects in here. Like drugs is not necessarily a meme coin, but it's fine. I guess it doesn't really matter. They got the funding platforms, infrastructure, list out several infrastructure platforms. They got research, list out some research platforms. They got data services, list out data services, and then they got memes. They got DAO tooling, they got DAOs, and they got management. It's cool to see. I just enjoy seeing these types of reports go out. So let's see if we got the views on how many people have seen this so far. No. But nonetheless, they're featuring ValleyDAO, and that's cool because they did not feature everyone, right? Again, this is a small snippet of DeSci, and they did not feature everyone, but ValleyDAO did get featured. Where is ValleyDAO? Where's the logo? Right there. Cool. Cool. Next up, we got a monthly wrap-up of Bio Protocol. So Bio launched V1 for Solana and Base, their new launch platform for biotech startups in the Web3 world. And then we got 3.2 million Bio already locked up in that V1 protocol. That is deflationary for the supply of Bio and is a lot of Bio. Let's just be real. That's a good amount of Bio locked up. I think it's worth like 10 cents right now. So that's $300,000 of Bio locked up, which is pretty cool. Then they got the Agentic Science Hackathon going on, where they're giving away, I think, 150,000 or something like that in order to advance some of the DeSci agents that they're building. Remember, they want a fleet of 1 million agents. And then we got SpineDAO smashing the curation. They got fungal biotech and a rare disease breakthrough. You can dive into this article if you guys want to. I will go ahead and share this with all of you guys. Speaking of sharing, you guys should definitely share the live stream with your parents, because I think that they would appreciate this type of valuable information. Next up, we have another announcement from Bio Protocol talking about the public curation for Reflex DAO and how it is now live. So they're really speeding up the amount of launches going on here. You notice that? They're really speeding that up. So Reflex DAO is building DeSci wearables to crush chronic diseases, powering Reflex DAO is building DeSci wearables to crush chronic diseases, powering autonomic nervous system data for prevention of these diseases. Commit your bio and support the science you believe in. So really just continuing to launch more and more and more. I got someone criticizing them here. Dr. Mikey from DeSci NYC, and also from Stadium Science, that platform that allows you to kind of bet on data within the decentralized science landscape. Pretty interesting. Think poly markets for DeSci and academia as a whole. It is something that Vitalik has been very prominently speaking about. He wrote an entire blog post about how he thinks the prediction markets need to be a thing for academia, and so Stadium Science, in my opinion, is the leader in that industry, and they're starting to pick up more and more steam, more and more recognition, which is cool to see. I met Dr. Mikey in New York. He's a good dude. Just one more DeSci project, bruh. I promise, bruh. Just one more decentralized study and we'll solve reproducibility issues, bruh. It'll help bio. Please, bruh. Just one more bio DAO, bro, and we'll unlock decentralized biotech funding, bruh. Bruh, come on. Just give me 2.5 million bio tokens and we'll decentralize science forever, bro. I promise, bruh. Please. We just need one more token to make it work. A little comedy there. I think it is quite funny. And it's low-key true. They're launching like crazy, and until we get more people, it is somewhat dilutive towards the amount of attention that's in the industry right now. You know, there's only so much liquidity in the industry, and the more projects that are launching and people take from one to go into the other, it is just, we're not mature enough in which this expansion can be offset with new members and new participants in all of these DAOs. There's only so much that a DAO participant can do. However, if you can zoom out a little bit, we need more and more projects. That is a healthy thing for a free market, is that competition, and that all of these DAOs are hyper-fixated on individual problems in academia and different research areas that kind of need funding and need a focused community effort to build out. And so while we're early into the foundational levels of decentralized science, if you can get more projects launched and more of those hyper-fixated focuses out into the market, it gives them more time to develop, and then the market will pick which ones succeed over time, right? So while it is funny and it is kind of true in the short term, in the long term, this needs to happen. This is something that has to happen, and Bio is proving to be the main player for that section. Next up, let me take a sip of water because I feel like I'm on a roll right now with my rants. I need to find an AI that will clip these live streams into content I can repurpose outside of the lives. Next up, we got something from Mudo Hub. They are hosting a thread contest, and now I figured you guys could probably partake in this if you wanted to, but we just launched the Mudo Hub app and want to celebrate our progress by doing a thread contest. Write a thorough thread about Mudo or our new app and why it's beneficial, or about what Mudo does, what's epigenetics, our layer 1 testnet, etc., etc. Be creative. It starts today at 10 a.m. UTC, which was now, so April 6 a.m., which is crazy, and ends on the 11th, again at 6 a.m. How to participate. Number 1, follow Mudo Health. Number 2, tag Mudo and use Mudo thread contest hashtag and ticker DNA to be eligible, right? They want people knowing about DNA and they want people knowing about Mudo. And then review the app and include the download link in your app in the thread. That's definitely going to limit the amount of spread that the threads get, but that's okay. It's just, if you guys want to partake in it, I'm going to give you all the link, copy the link, post that in the chat. You guys are really studying this chat right now, huh? You guys are really paying close attention to everything. Another post from Mudo. Mudo's supplement range just got featured in Nutra Ingredients. Using the insights from 70,000 plus DNA and epigenetic profiles, they built 6 next-gen formulas: timelessness, vitamin D3, trimagnesium, B vitamin complex, selenium, and omega-3 to support health, aging, energy, immunity, and cellular function. So all of those are well, I don't know about timeless. I've not seen anything about that, but vitamin D, trimagnesium, B vitamin complex, selenium, and omega-3s are very standardized supplements to offer, and it's good to see that they are putting a consumer-facing product out to the market so that anyone in their DAO or supporters of the community can use those products if they so choose to. It's good just to get that recurring revenue for the DAO so they can continue to expand and spread. We got 3 more topics to cover here. We're rapid firing them as we usually do, and then we can shoot the shit and go over anything you want. I'll come back to that one. So, Curetopia. I did an interview with, I forgot his name. With Ethan. I did an interview with Ethan in ETH Denver. He's a smart dude, got a lot of experience, so he is a very qualified person to be running Curetopia here. But they successfully executed their test flight screen for AARS2 deficiency. Now it's time to scale up yeast-powered drug repurposing for inherent metabolic diseases. The initial focus is on 40 ARS genes, the building blocks of protein. Q2 research plan explainer video below. So what's pretty interesting, and something that I want to talk to you guys about when it comes to Curetopia and ticker Cures, is that when a project, when a company, a biotech startup goes to bio to receive some initial seed investments for funding to get started with the DAO, bio offers them $100,000 in exchange for 6.9% of supply of the DAO. Now, I don't know if that's still the model ongoing, but last I heard, that was what the going rate was. And the idea is that you take that 100 grand and you start up your DAO and you get everything started and you get the community built out and you get the people in place to help with operations. Ethan took that money and found novel drugs that could be repurposed for hyper-specific rare diseases. So he proved that his methodology works. His methodology is that you look in yeast 4 different protein synthesis genes that are the exact same as in humans. And then you test different drugs that are already on the market for hyperfixated purposes within that yeast culture, and you get outputs that can then be replicated within humans because we share the exact same genetic expressions as those specific yeasts do, right? It's an ancient common ancestor that we have with yeast, that protein has just been carried down throughout the centuries, millennia, not centuries, millennia, or even longer than that, who fucking knows for real. But it's an interesting approach, right? He actually did a proof of concept to then receive the funding to go and repurpose already existing drugs on the market for rare diseases. And it works. And here is the case study of it working. Little girl in Hong Kong with the rare genetic condition PIGN-CDG has been seizure-free for a year while taking that, aka fat-soluble vitamin C. So again, these are not complicated things. He's not reinventing anything. He is repurposing things. So fat-soluble vitamin C. I didn't even know that was the thing. Vitamin C, for anyone who doesn't know, is water-soluble, meaning it dissolves in water, and it is something that you take in citrus type fruits or in a supplement and then you pee out the excess. But fat soluble vitamin C is something that will store in your fat, right? And I didn't even know vitamin C came in a fat soluble form, but apparently fat soluble vitamin C is good at treating this super specific rare disease. And in fact, for over a year now, has helped this little girl in Hong Kong not have those seizures, which is really, really cool. Still blows my mind every time I hear case reports like this, especially because we went straight from a yeast hit in the lab to an international parent-organized observational study involving 11 families. Despite several dozen real-world success stories out there based on this drug repurposing program, we're still mostly flying under the radar. What will change soon as we mature beyond 1 to N observational studies towards more structured, yet still decentralized phase 1.5 studies, where outcomes measure can be validated in the wild, and a pivotal phase 3 go/no-go decision can be made quickly and cheaply based on data. So this is, in my opinion, going to be the fastest turnover of therapies in the market. This cures and eradicate rare disease or end rare diseases. They are going to be some of the fastest turnover times for drug therapies and treatment offers out there. And because you're dealing in hyper-specific rare disease categories, it is very crucial that you go quickly and study everything that comes out of those observational studies, right? And what's, again, another interesting pinpoint about Ethan is that he already has connections in the rare disease landscape. He's already well connected. Go watch that interview I did. It's on my YouTube and on X, and it's crazy. He is the man for the job. So I hope that they do really well. Disclosure, I do not own any cures. I need to get some. And then a post that VitaDAO reposted from Ethan, it says that value will gradually shift from modality creators, aka pharma, to modality consumers, aka patients, as precision medicine goes DTC. It's happening today already at the fringes. Rare disease communities, biohackers, longevity influencers, and most recently, DeSci pioneers. A complete value shift of the traditional value chain in big pharma. At least that's what he's predicting, what he thinks he's seeing. Last, but certainly not least, Genomes has an interesting report out. Can mutations give you superpowers? Probably not, but they're still pretty fascinating. Make sure to check out this week's Genomics Fundamentals to learn what mutations are, how they happen, and the different types that shape human life. I bet we could get some intentional mutations that cause some interesting superpowers. I bet we could do that. But we're probably super far away from stuff like this, right? Where the Hulk is a radioactive human that gave him superpowers. It's a little bit like that's fringe, not gonna happen, but that type of ideology, right? Like there, for example, let's, what is that gene? Not myocarditis, something that makes cows super muscular. Yeah, myostatin's role. So if you guys didn't know that there is a genetic mutation that can happen in cattle and sometimes in humans in which they produce more or less, I forget right now, of a protein called myostatin. So myostatin is a protein that acts as a negative regulator of muscle growth, meaning it helps to control how much muscle an animal develops. And so when you have a deficiency in this protein, i.e. your genes don't have the blueprints to create as much of this protein, your body will just continue to grow muscle more and more and more and more and more. It's a deficiency in this protein. So if you genetically mutated an individual to not produce this protein, and then they went and started working out more aggressively, they would get bigger naturally than any human on steroids, because their muscles would never stop making more of itself, right? So mutations like that are things that could easily happen. That is like, then you become this superhuman person that goes and wins all the bodybuilding contests, and you're just like, you know? And with sound effects like that entirely. But I imagine stuff like that actually could end up playing out. We also just saw, and I'm gonna leave the ethical side of this to the side for now, but we just saw, what's his name? Brian Johnson posting about, obviously don't die, but more specifically, picking the genes that your children get so that they can have the best possible genes, right? So when they were in elementary school, their mom started going blind, retinitis pigmentosus, no family history, no treatment, no cure. I got lucky, she didn't. It led to me building this company so my baby and everyone else's gets to win the genetic lottery and avoid blindness and hundreds of severe genetic diseases. So being able to pinpoint those snippets of genetic code and prevent them from being passed on to children. So not necessarily becoming superhuman mutants, right? That kind of stuff's likely not going to happen, but what they're getting at here is this type of activity in which you can selectively prevent diseases from being passed on. Genetic carriers don't have to be of concern anymore because we're able to pinpoint the certain specific snippets in people's DNA, right? And then prevent them from being passed on or encourage them to be passed on, right? And again, I want to leave the ethics to the side. Well, that's a concern, of course. Anyone with a brain knows that's a concern. Designer babies, good or bad, I don't really care. This specific use case of preventing diseases is what I'm paying attention to. And it's interesting. And it's another value creation area that is starting to expand and starting to explode, especially after last year. We just mapped all of the 200 million protein structures in the body, right? We used artificial intelligence to map out all of the protein structures in a body, where previously, before last year, we'd only mapped out like 150, 200,000. And then last year, they mapped out all 200 million plus. And I'm sure we'll get better results as time goes on. We just opened the door, guys. We just opened the door. How crazy is that? Good morning, Zach. And there we have it. That is what I had to present to you guys here today. So now we can circle back and cry about the market if you want to again, as we are we're about to put in some lower lows on the day as we're talking. Woo! Yeah! Free fall, free fall, free fall. Let's go to the weekly chart. If you guys have any charts you want to look at or any questions, feel free. Let's go to the weekly chart and see where we might fall fall too. So on the weekly, we just slashed through the 100-day moving average. And if we go ahead and just do some very rudimentary drawings on the chart here, we do some rectangle stuff. We grab this, obviously a previous area of contention, the last local high back in 2021 before we started falling in 2022, and drag this out to where we're currently at. You'll see that the 200-day moving average is incrementally increasing into that area of contention as the price of the NASDAQ is aggressively selling off into that area of contention. So from a logic standpoint, it would make sense that we find a bottom somewhere in this zone here, which would be a massive sell-off for the NASDAQ. It would be anywhere from 23% all the way down to 28%, give or take probably a percent or two. Would be a massive stock market crash. Don't make any mistake about it. That is a massive stock market crash. It does potentially showcase that we might be halfway done, more than halfway done with this crash already, and it is quick, which is good. I like the quick crashes, so we don't have to sit through that terrible downturn that happened back here. But that's the first area that I would really be paying attention to scale into positions aggressively here, right? And it also corresponds with that previous peak while we were trying to climb out of the crash. So it's interesting. That is a lot of confluence in that one spot. So I'll keep that on the chart and assume that that's probably where we will bottom. As far as Bitcoin is concerned, unless you guys want me to go through the S&P 500, but it's essentially the exact same story. The chart looks the same, just not as bad as the NASDAQ. So S&P would end up falling about 23% instead of the 28% potential that the NASDAQ could have. Dow Jones is hurting even more than the others because it has a lot to do with the real physical products and everything. So it is hurting bad from these tariffs. Not as bad as a total function of the sell-off, but since the tariffs, it's getting hit a lot harder than it previously had. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. Good. Okay. If we don't hold those spots, let's say we slice straight through those areas, I would say that we could see some price action as low as down in here on the charts only. I'm only speaking to the charts here, right? If we do not find support at that 200-week moving average, could see some crazy drops down here. But I don't think anyone in charge will let that happen. Really, I don't think anyone in charge will let the market just fall like that, because that is devastation. Those areas would be more so in line with a full-scale recession, not just a strategic scare. Jordy says the bottom is near. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And then we go look at Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, again, my bottom for Bitcoin is this yellow line here, the previous little high here, if we do start to see that sell-off. But who knows what's going to happen? It looks like the market is holding up more. Like the sellers are already gone for Bitcoin, potentially. Obviously, people can always still sell. As long as it has a price on it, there are people that could sell. But it looks like Bitcoin's holding up a lot better. We already had those crazy sell-offs. People already de-risked out of crypto violently, guys. So, buy DynXPad. My God. It's under 4 cents now. So, yeah. Every time we drop another penny, I drop another bag. Fuck, dude. What the fuck? Can they get their shit together? Holy crap. Who is selling? Who is selling? I don't want to look at that. DXY. Let's look at the DXY. Let's do some charting on DXY. Let's go to the weekly here and see. So dollar index is right at the 200-week moving average. So either we bounce from here and continue to go up, or we sell off and break below, right? So either, I know those are the only two real options for it, but given everything happening and given what Trump is saying, I think we break below. I think that the dollar has a sell-off here, right? I don't think we find the 200-week moving average as a support area. And so where would we go if we did have that type of a sell-off? You go look at the boxes here. I mean, this area that we just bounced from is where it looks like there's a ton of congestion. But then if we break through that area, it looks like we would be coming down to visit the low 90s with the potential of dipping all the way down into 90. I'm gonna just go ahead and put a single line at this area. You can see how much support and resistance is down here. I gotta move the charts over. That would be catastrophic likely for the economy, or for, that would be catastrophic for the actual economy, but for our bags, it might be good. So take it with what you can. I already saw that, Landon. I saw what you said and then retracted. You over 100K? Yes, significantly. At this point, I have crushed my goal of getting to 100,000 Dynex and am significantly higher than 100,000 Dynex. Let's go look at it. I mean, you do the math, it's at 4 cents. 100,000, what is that? Well, Patrick, if it was at 10 cents, 100,000 Dynex. Well, if it's at $1, 100,000 Dynex is $100,000. It's at 10 cents, 100,000 Dynex is $10,000. So it's at 4 cents, which means 100,000 Dynex is only $4,000. So I am significantly higher than $4,000 in Dynex. Significantly. So there's that. I'm gonna end up with 1% of the supply at the rate that it's going. Oil just absolutely got crushed. Holy shit, my brain was not registering this, but oil just absolutely fell straight through that area that it was holding at, $67, and is now putting in local lows. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Oil obviously being the backbone to a lot of inflationary pressures. So oil selling off is good for inflation coming down. Now the other live stream, we went through a lot of different commodities, kind of fringe commodities, and saw that those are all a lot higher than where they were in 2021. So those fringe commodities are still aggressive inflationary pressures, but kind of those core things like housing, like oil, like dollar pressure, all those things are really not elevated anymore. We even saw Trump pass one of the executive orders when he first got into office, some pressures to bring the price of housing down. And I'm gonna reiterate something with you guys, because in the past, when housing gets too expensive, some of the initiatives that the government will take is to just lower the monthly payments, i.e. a 30-year mortgage was born out of the housing market going up too much. You go back 50 years, we didn't have a 30-year mortgage, right? Now it's the staple because it brings the monthly out of pocket cost to own a home down. So it didn't hurt the price of houses, it just made it more affordable to get into houses. And then we saw in 2008 a lot of initiatives to get no money down loans for homes so that people who didn't have any savings could just get in and start, instead of paying rent, they start paying towards their mortgage, right? And so in the past, what we've seen presidents do and people do in power is create these incentivization programs to bring the monthly cost down. But what Trump did was build more houses. He's creating incentive programs to build more houses like crazy. And I encourage you guys to go drive around and look in your local neighborhoods and your local communities. And I would love to know on Monday after the weekend how many new housing developments you guys have found that have started in this year, i.e. they've just started clearing trees or they're just starting to lay foundations, right? I know in my neighborhood, it's exploding like crazy. And when I go for a drive outside, which I don't often do because usually I'm just standing in this corner 24 hours a day, but when I do go outside, I'm seeing a lot of housing production start a lot. So I'm curious really in the rest of the United States and where you guys are located, are you seeing the same thing? Because that is going to not be good for the price of houses. That's going to bring it down. And now, while I think it is super important that housing prices do either stop going up as quickly or start coming down, it's going to cause pain. And a lot of inflation is derived, the CPI numbers are derived heavily from the public's perception of how the housing market is doing, i.e. Perceived rents that people could get. Like the survey that they do where they go call homeowners and see how much they think they'd be able to get for rent on their house. If they think housing prices are starting to go down, they're going to be less inclined to answer with elevated prices. And so those inflationary pressures on the housing market are going to be coming down a lot too. So I understand it's a lot of fear right now that inflation is going to tick up aggressively, but I don't think that that's going to be what happens. I don't. I really don't. I think we're going to get maybe a little bit of a bump in inflation fears. The perception of inflation has skyrocketed, which often means people will start spending more, which causes the inflation, right? Because you can spend before the inflation gets in. And so it might spiral like that a little bit, but you go look at stuff like oil tanking, and yeah. What made you give up on Bill? I did not give up on Bill, damn it. Beagle, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you say such a thing? ETH BTC has bottomed out like it did in 2021 before the rally. Maybe this time the real dip of the dip of the dip. Let's go look. I did not give up on Bill. The only thing I've been doing is working on Bill. I've not been in the community of Bill, and that's probably what you're referring to, because I've been too focused on working. If you guys want me to stop the development and go and just talk with you guys and hype up nonsense, I can do that. I can. It's probably going to be better for the short-term performance, but it's not going to be better for the long-term performance. And I'm here to build something of value. I'm here to create something. So I've not given up on Bill. Oh, I misread it. I'm sorry, Beagle. Forgive me for attacking you like that. You went on my shit list for a minute. What would make you give up on Bill? I would have to have a severe medical emergency to give up on Bill. I would have to have That's a good question. What would actually make me give up on Bill? Nothing. I can't see a way that I would give up on Bill. And let me explain, because it might sound a little like that's like the expected answer, right? But I genuinely mean that. Good morning, C90. I genuinely mean that, because at this point, I have tied my personal brand to Bill in a way that I don't see dissipating. Bill is the mascot for DeSci SHILLERS. And so as long as decentralized science is still a thing, Bill will still be a thing. As long as I am still alive and in good health, Bill will still be a thing. So if decentralized science ends up being a complete scam, a complete fad, nothing ever comes out of it, then Bill will die. If I die, Bill will probably die as well. Unless you guys want to start building him out too, right? Maybe we make it a community thing that you guys have access to the builds, and then it can be carried on even if I disappear. But as long as I'm still here, and as long as DeSci is still here, Bill will still be continuing onwards. ETH BTC is in that large area that I hoped it would never enter into. So Ethereum divided by Bitcoin has really just fallen off a cliff further than I think most people ever expected. I do think it's time to kind of change up how we're looking at this chart a little bit. And instead of assuming ETH compared to Bitcoin is going to go higher over time, we might need to start toying with the idea that it is but an oscillator to Bitcoin. I could see an argument. No, we don't even know where this is going to bottom yet, so we can't really draw that bottom trend line until it does bottom. So for the time being, I think that purple area is a good spot to be in. But segueing, if you believe Ethereum is going to be here and continue onwards and continuing to provide value, which I do believe that. We are soon going to be getting some of those yields on the Ethereum ETF within the market. Holy fuck, I thought that was Netflix down 53%, and I was like, this is significantly worse than I ever expected it to be. But it's down 53 points, down 6%, which is still bad. But if you believe Ethereum is going to actually be something, then this is a good area to be accumulating in the hopes that we bounce against Bitcoin back to the top here, which is currently 265% gains on Bitcoin. So hypothetically, let's go and operate under the assumption that you believe this market cycle is not over, and you believe, like me, that Bitcoin is going to go up another 86%. Okay, let's go ahead and get that calculator out. You believe Bitcoin has 86% gains inside of its cycle performance, right? We're gonna stay with that baseline case prediction. So 86% times I don't know that I'm gonna end up doing that math correctly. $250%. So 86% times 2.5 equals 215%. Because you would assume that Ethereum is going to outperform Bitcoin by a tune of 250% of whatever Bitcoin ends up doing. So that comes out to 215% gains on Ethereum this cycle, if you think it's going to get back to that peak and you think Bitcoin's going to 154,000. So if we go ahead from here and put 215% gains, we have a marginal higher high of $5,700 for Ethereum. So somewhere around $5,500, $5,700 for Ethereum. If you believe that Bitcoin's going to 155,000 and Ethereum divided by Bitcoin will go back to that range high. If you believe, for example, that Bitcoin's going to go to 200,000, and again, we're operating under the assumption that you do not think that the cycle is over with this little prediction here. If you operate there and you think Bitcoin's going to go to 200,000, we're looking at 137% gains. So 137% gains multiplied by the 2.5x outperformance of Ethereum to Bitcoin would be 350% gains on Ethereum. And you come here and do some of that moon boy math here to see what 350% gains look like, you would get somewhere of an $8,000 Ethereum. So a little bit of moon math for you guys. Moon math to get ETH to $8,000 if Bitcoin goes to 200,000 and ETH Bitcoin becomes an oscillator where it goes back to that previous high from the last two cycles. That makes sense to you guys? I imagine the answer would be yes there. And I imagine most of you guys probably do believe we have one more leg in the cycle, otherwise you probably wouldn't be here watching any of this. You would be living out your life on the ranch. GameStop's up today, that's kind of funny. That's probably because they have so many diehard holders, diehard community members. Dominance for Bitcoin is actually coming down a little bit here today. Not much though, nothing to even begin to get excited over. But I do imagine dominance eventually has to have a pullback to the moving averages down here again. So sooner rather than later, dominance will come down and at least tap the main moving average. Maybe come down and start hitting some of these lower ones. I pray. I pray as well, Beagle. I pray as well. These are the weekly charts. Let's go to the daily. Costco falling. Nvidia falling in free fall territory. Maybe a bounce here because it bounced here last time and it peaked out here in 24, but in free fall territory for the time being. Tesla just range bound for half a decade at this point. Netflix also in a bit of a free fall. Potential bounce here though, I will say. Potential bounce area. You see that congestion, you see that support line drawn out. Yeah. What else do you guys have? Anything else for me? I seem to have exhausted the value that I have to provide for you guys, but do you guys have any value to provide for me, or any questions that I could then provide insight to, or answers, or just mainly my opinion? Biggest ETH whale is Trump. I mean, maybe, potentially. We know Trump loves ETH, and we know Trump, the Trump associated companies like Liberty Finance love ETH, and we know BlackRock loves ETH. And we know BlackRock also loves Solana and Bitcoin and Ondo and a lot of big companies, big crypto companies. So zoom out a little bit, guys. All is fine. No, it's not. Oh, let me crack my back. What else can we look at? I'm curious what the 10-year actually looks like, though. Oh, you know what I'm curious about? I'm curious what the 10-2 spread looks like. So 10 years plummeting, which is all part of the plan. People are, again, piling into treasuries. Did not Google search that good. 0.3 for the yield curve. So we've been maintaining an uninversion. If we rapidly jump to 0.5 or above, it's all hands on deck. Like if this yield curve starts rapidly uninverting, right? Not this slow steady stuff. Slow and steady is okay, slow and steady is good. Right? This slow and steady climb is what we want. But if all of a sudden you see this yield curve, the 210, start to rapidly go up, it's at 0.33 here. Let's say we check back in 2 months and it's at 0.6, 0.7. Get out. Get out. And I don't say that lightly, but you look at these rapid uninversions. 2020, rapid uninversion, massive recession. And this was a bit of a rapid uninversion, right? But it's not, because it was just so deeply inverted. You go look at 08, rapid uninversion, rapid increase in the spread. You go look at the dot-com bubble, rapid increase in the spread. You go look at the 92 stock market crash, nice rapid increase in the spread here. So pay attention to it, keep an eye. Your time, ladies and gentlemen, is your most valuable asset. It is Fitness Friday, so I want each and every one of you guys to take care of yourself in some way over the weekend. Please, for the love of God, go outside, get some fresh air, get away from the charts, go take care of your bodies. There's no point in making all this money or losing all this money if you are not in sound physical form to use all the money that you've made. Now, I understand at this point we've not made much money because everything's just going straight down, but the point remains. If you aren't taking care of yourself physically, you won't be your best mentally. If you're not your best mentally, you can't make the best decisions. If you don't make the best decisions, you'll lose more money than everyone else. So go take care of yourself. I will see you guys Monday.